Welcome everybody to the PinstripeChronicles podcast. I am Tats. I'm here with Donald and Rob, and the lockout has begun. And
happy lockout day, people!
Happy lockout day. After 26 years of labor peace, here we are, where there is no baseball, and it's a very dark and gloomy day. The fists are already flying across the table between the commissioner's office and the MLB Players Association. What's your biggest takeaway from the fact that for the reason why we ended up in this position?
Can I just read a quick excerpt of his letter here? Obviously, the whole nonsense about how so much enjoyment and pleasures in the game, blah, blah, blah. Then he gets the next paragraph. That is why I'm so disappointed by the situation in which our game finds itself in today. Despite the league's best efforts to make a deal with the Players Association, we were unable to extend our 26-year-long history of labor peace and come to an agreement with the MLB before the current CBA expired. Therefore, we have been forced to commence a lockout of Major League Baseball players effective as of 12:01 a.m., December 2nd. It's really interesting that he says here he's disappointed about the situation in the state that our game is in. He is responsible for that. Rob?
Yeah. He absolutely is responsible. My biggest takeaway is they're both a bunch of losers. The PA and the commissioner's office and everybody involved. The owners suck. The players right now, they don't look too great. They suck too, as far as I'm concerned. And you're seeing just how petty everything is now. If you go on the baseball, like on the websites, all the players' faces are no longer there on the roster list. Like it's just a blank picture. It's nonsense. It's all it is. A bunch of greedy ass millionaires just trying to fight with each other for more money. And we talked about it yesterday. You know, Scott brought it up about one of the players saying, you know, the average guy only makes about $800,000 a year. How can we be sympathetic with you as an average fan who enjoys baseball? No one's making people are making, you know, 6 digits a year, but not everybody is making anywhere near that kind of money that you are, and people are struggling to survive out there, and you're complaining about making millions and millions of dollars. That's why it's just a bunch of greedy assholes fighting with each other. Excuse my French, but that's all I take away from it. It's 26 years we had labor peace. Every time there was issues with the NFL and the NBA, like a decade ago, they had the lockout of the NFL, and it was always like, well, at least baseball doesn't have this. You know, since the strike in 95, baseball's been clean. They don't have these issues. And that was the case every single time. And here we are. And this is all because of what happened back in 2020. They couldn't agree to anything then. They had some issues before the season this year. And we knew this lockout was coming. And the fact that we knew about it for 2 years and they still couldn't get anything done, it's disgusting. And it's a huge stain on the state of baseball. And it sucks because this was shaping up to be a really, really fun offseason with all the moves that have happened. And, you know, the landscape of the game was going to be pretty different going into 2022. There could have been a lot more teams competitive, and I'm sure we'll get a season, but it's not going to, you know, it's going to end up being two sides compromising. It's not going to be like, hey, good job on both sides.
Yeah.
It's just going to be a crap fest for however long it takes. And I'm very...
The next paragraph of his letter here, this defensive lockout was necessary because the Players Association's vision for Major League Baseball would threaten the ability of most teams to be competitive. It's simply not a viable option. From the beginning, the MLBPA has been unwilling to move from their starting position, compromise, or collaborate on solutions. So he's just throwing it all on the MLBPA. Absolutely nothing is on him or the owners. Then he goes into how all the compromises they tried. When negotiations lacked momentum, we tried to create some by offering to accept the universal designated hitter, to create a new draft system using a lottery similar to other leagues, and to increase the competitive balance tax threshold that affects only a small number of teams. And he says here, in fact, only MLB has guaranteed contracts that run 10 or more years and in excess of $300 million. We would not have proposed anything that would change these fundamentals. So all he's doing is he's just blaming it all on them.
Yep.
They're to blame. not me. And it's very interesting because Scott was saying very similar that on Michael Kay. Michael Kay is he's obviously quite familiar with how the negotiations are going. It's basically one person entrenched on one side, the other entrenched on the other. There's no give or take. There's no negotiations. It's absolutely they have to take everything, and there's no side that's going to come to kind of an agreement. We've been talking as a podcast about this since the start. We knew that this was going to happen. This day was always going to come.
Oh yeah,
They were never going to find equal ground. And when you read this letter, which I find quite disgusting. I mean, I'm not privy to negotiations. I don't know whose fault it is. It might be the MLBPA's fault, but he's not taking any responsibility for the state of the game. He's a slime ball. He is the direct responsibility for the state of the game. No wonder no one wants to negotiate with him. He's a slime ball. Who would want to?
Yeah, he wants to make it seem like it's everybody else's fault but his.
Yep.
And meanwhile, he's the one that's supposed to be representing the owners. And we all know that the owners are not willing to just, they've been doing a lot better with giving out, working with the Players Association. So like he said, and I'll agree with that, at least with baseball, you get your contracts are guaranteed. There's no cap. There's no, if you want to sign a 25-year deal, you can sign a 25-year deal. So in that aspect, I think that's why baseball is doing as well as it attracts players the way they do, and why players are staying in the game, trying to stay in as long as they can. They know they're getting their money. So the thing is, you don't know where the middle compromise is. Like, we got a little bit of what was put onto the table, but what's the actual issue? Unfortunately, we're not privy to that information. As much as I would prefer it to be, that's just not the way it is. We talked about that yesterday a little bit. Give us something so we know what the hell is going on, and then we get this. And it's like, this really doesn't solve any problems. It's exactly what we said was going to happen. Was they're going to try to sway one side. They're going to try to sway the fans to lean on one side over the other.
They did exactly the same thing last year, remember? That's why it was a pissing match last year. Both sides were sending back and forth letters that, it's not our fault. And the other side was like, no, it's not our fault. Rob, have you got the MLBPA's reply real quick?
I do. And it's basically just them pointing the finger right back at Manfred. They said this shutdown is a dramatic measure. Regardless of the timing, it is not required by law for any other reason. It was the owner's choice, plain and simple, specifically calculated to pressure players into relinquishing rights and benefits and abandoning good faith bargaining proposals that will benefit not just players, but the game and industry as a whole. They're just pointing the finger right back at Manfred. So this is how it starts every time. It's like, no, it's your fault. No, it's your fault. It's like when you got into a fight back in kindergarten, who pushed who on the swing set? No, it was him. No, he did it first. That's when you got into fights when you were a kid. He started it. That's exactly what we're having right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But instead, we're not 5-year-olds. They're a bunch of grown-ass men, millionaires and billionaires fighting over this shit. And we, the fans, are the ones who are suffering. So I'm not picking a side. I know they want everyone to pick a side. Do you support the owners or the players? No, I'm picking the fans. We're the ones who are going to suffer from this. I don't give a damn about the millionaire players who are not able to sign right now, because they're going to sign once this thing ends, and they're going to get their guaranteed money, because that's what they're talking about. It's all about money. They don't care about anything else. They care about money. They want to get paid. And while I will agree that there is a lot of shady stuff with the arbitration and the manipulation of service time, I agree with that. But that's what it all boils down to, is money. So am I supposed to support one side because they want to get paid more? I want to get paid more too. But I can't go into a lockout with my job or I get fired. So I'm not going to take the side of a bunch of millionaires. I can't do it. I'm pissed off as a fan because I just want baseball. And it's a hell of a long off season as it is. And I said it already, it's disgusting, and I'm pissed off, and I'll continue to be pissed off until this ends, because it's just going to get uglier and uglier by the day.
In many ways, it's the fans that have been locked out. and the people who cover baseball for a living have been locked out because now they've got nothing they can cover for 2 months, possibly 2 months. Instead of breaking who's signing and which trades being made, they're being locked out too. Instead, we have to cover these horrible negotiations which are happening. So I've got sympathy for them. I've got sympathy for us as fans and for us that are content creators who've just been locked out of our game that we love. It's sad. I mean, as you say, Rob, Correa is not going to be sweating. In 4 weeks' time, he's going to get a $250 to $300 million contract. He'll be okay.
Yep.
So the players aren't really being locked out. Let's be honest. They're just being delayed. It's the fans that have been locked out.
Yeah. Well, the way that the players are locked out, which is it's not in a monetary way. They're not allowed. They can't go to any of the facilities. They can't represent. Pretty much they have to walk around with just a blank baseball cap on. So I don't see where one side is going to come out going, where the fans are going to go, hey, thank you for coming around to our side as the fans. It's not going to happen. They're only out for themselves. And it's really a shame. It's really this hurts the game. We were lucky enough where we had 26 years of labor peace. That's a long time when you're dealing with the egos that are involved with sports. That is a long time. So this was almost like the writing was on the wall, and it all started from when they were negotiating the season during the pandemic. That's when we came together and, as a podcast, and was like, all right, this is only a sign of things to come. Because when the CBA ends, it's going to be even uglier. Well, we're already seeing that hours into it.
Yeah.
How many more? Sorry, Rob.
No, I was just gonna say, all I've known is labor peace, basically. 26 years. I'm 29. So basically, since I've been watching baseball, I've never had to deal with something like this. I've been through an NBA lockout and an NFL lockout. They're not fun, but they got it done though. But the writing was on the wall, like you just said. Back in the 2020 negotiations, why was the NBA able to get the bubble thing done so quickly? They had to suspend the season. They came up with an agreement. We're going to do this. And it worked out almost to perfection. They had a couple of hiccups during the bubble, but it went through pretty much smooth. The NFL got their season off almost without a hitch. They just had to, not do the preseason. And they didn't have negotiations like that. But baseball and the players, and it's something Scott mentioned already before the other day or yesterday, they had a chance to be there for the country while the country was all at home, not being able to do anything but work. They could have been there for the fans, but they didn't do it. They missed their opportunity, and here they are again, missing an opportunity just to come up with an agreement. I know it's not going to happen overnight, but they had a long time to get this done. And
we could only cross our fingers that it does get resolved a lot quicker than anticipated. If they have everything handled and said and done by New Year's, I think that would actually be a good thing. I think it's going to go that. I don't think it's something that's going to happen overnight, but I don't see it going into the next calendar year.
How many more times is the fans going to be disenfranchised, though, man? I mean, last year they were lucky they got any fans to come back at all. After what we all, as human beings, as a society, have had to deal with the coronavirus and the lockdown, to watch millionaires squabble over millions of dollars instead of the game that we all love. And as we mentioned in yesterday's podcast, other sports had no problem in getting it sorted out without this public pissing match. So I'm not interested in excuses anymore. This is unacceptable. What happened last year was unacceptable. And it's only because baseball is a sport where it goes up through the generations. I was brought up with it from my grandfather. It was passed on. It's been passed on to all of us in some way through the families. And that's why we stick with it. If you're kind of new to it without that situation, you're just kind of like let's say a fair weather fan. Or we go just someone who's just like part-time, not like invested like we are. someone who's not invested will be like, I'm sorry, I can put my time elsewhere, because this is not going to add interest in the game. People are not going to want to take part in this. This is a joke.
Well, that's
And,
why.
and this public pissing match is a further joke. And if this continues, say 2 months, you're going to lose fans doing this, man. Like, this needs to be sorted out within 4 weeks. I think anything more than that, and then fans are going to start tuning out.
It's like, what does that say? You were saying, the fair weather. I actually want to put a new term into it. Well, the first generation fans.
Yeah,
right,
sorry,
don't
that's
have
a
this
word.
handed
It's
down
wrong
like
word
we did.
choice. You're right. It's
Okay.
the wrong word choice. I couldn't think of a word choice. You're right.
But what has baseball done to say for that first generation fans be like, I can't wait to pass this to my kids and my grandkids and my nieces, nephews, what has baseball done to say, to tell those first gen fans, well, where it's all about you guys. It's all about the fans. I don't see where they've done that on both levels.
No, they haven't, and like I've said this before a long time ago, and everyone can agree with this. We don't watch baseball to see Hal Steinbrenner on our TV. We're not interested in what he's doing in the box during a game. It's like I get mad every time the Cowboys game is on. Even I hate watching the Cowboys, but they show Jerry Jones like 17 times during the game. I don't care about what Jerry Jones is doing. I want to watch the product on the field. It's the same thing with baseball. If you imagine if they showed Hal Steinbrenner every other at bat, like, oh, let's see the reaction of the owner of the team. I don't give a damn about what he's doing right now. I want to watch the product on the field. We watch the games for the players on the field. However, when the players are doing basically the same thing the owners are, which is just, whining back, no, it's not your fault. It's not our fault. That's your fault. I don't feel sympathetic for anybody. I'm not picking a side. I'm mad at both sides here. I'm mad at the sport that I love is going through this nonsense because it's just greediness,
Bro, if a video was of Hal Steinbrenner watching a game, it would be at St. Pete on his boat. He would be watching the game. He's like, oh, who's playing? Oh, the Yankees? Oh, what's the score? He doesn't care. So,
there's a game
that's one of the
today?
best things happen. Is there a game today? It's Joey Gallo. Oh, okay. No, I mean, it wasn't just the pissing match over the last 2 years. Then we can add the trash can scandal, which Manfred disenfranchised the fans and disenfranchised the sport. And I think what he did there has had ramifications all the way up to here. I think this was always going to happen. As soon as he basically told you that the sport was meaningless because it was just a piece of trash, then I think there'll be people in the players' union going, I ain't negotiating with this guy. That's why we're in this situation. He's not helped himself. He is a slime bag lawyer that has been involved in all kinds of slime bag things. I watched the documentary of A-Rod and the steroids thing. It's on Netflix. Manfred knew everything that was going on, and he did all kinds of creepy, weird, all kinds of stuff behind the scenes, which made him look just as complicit as any of the steroid guys. He's just a slime bag lawyer. That's all he is. He doesn't care about the sport. He doesn't care about us. He cares about his own image and money. Money. That's all he cares
That's
about.
all it is.
So I don't want anybody to be crying for him.
No, I'm not crying for any of them. I want to just, what I want to see is that the owners are committing, the proper funds to put on a quality product on the field and players that want to play where they're playing. It's really, it's a very simple concept. Just there's always a way to come down to the middle. There's always going to be that one player that, in the middle of a contract just doesn't get along with the manager anymore and just gives everybody a headache. That's inevitable. But there are more opportunities for there to be camaraderie within the game than not.
Well, also now, Rob, have you got that quote? That seems to be coming out now that Manfred's been sort of jigging with the balls a little bit. Rob, could you fill us in on that?
Well, the quote didn't actually come from Manfred, but it was basically a player giving their opinion. I think what he thinks is happening. The primetime games, like Yankees, Red Sox, or maybe Cubs, Cardinals, whatever, you're seeing the ball fly out of the park more. There's more offense generated. Whereas if it's, Detroit and Kansas City playing, where there's not going to be a lot of eyes on national television, you're going to see more of a pitcher's duel, of a dead ball. And we've been talking about this the whole time, how the season has gone, or the season went, where early in the year, the ball was dead and the pitchers were dominating. Then all of a sudden they blamed Spider Tack, and then the hitters started hitting again. Like, the ball was definitely changed throughout the year. Remember 2019, the London series? That ball was flying out of that stadium.
Yeah.
Like, I've never seen the score was like 20-15 or
yeah, it was almost like a college football score.
Yeah, and then this year at the Field of Dreams game, like foul ball,
God,
like check swings, they were going like 18 corn rows back. It was unbelievable. Yeah. So if you think that they're not doing something for these primetime games, maybe not during the playoffs, because I think I would like to think that during the postseason and the World Series, they're just going with the generic baseball, but who knows at this point. But it's clear as day that Field of Dreams game, the ball was flying differently than it did all year long at any other stadium. And I know it was a smaller park, whatever, but you can't tell me that the air in Iowa is different or something like that that's making that ball fly the way it was.
Well, yes, the article is from Bradford William Davis. It's his expose. He's got it. Maybe you can check him out on Twitter. And he's come out here in his tweet. Did you know MLB used not one but two different balls all season, and that the balls were designed to perform differently? The players, coaches, execs, and scouts I spoke to, they didn't know either. Buckle in, he's got the article. It's on businessinsider.com. So one of the balls is deadened that they found, and the other was designed to go farther. And it would make sense. I mean, you're right, Rob. I mean, you watch that Field of Dreams game. It was a home run derby.
Now, here's my question.
Sorry, Tats. I blamed it all on Andrew Heaney, but maybe it was also both things.
It was a little bit of both.
Let's not get too carried away there, Donald, but giving him a pass. Okay. But my question would be, don't the pitch I would love to get a pitcher's point of view on this whole situation. Did they not? Was there a difference? Obviously, you would think there'd be a difference in the grip if the ball is going to be a little softer.
Well, remember, they're not allowed to use anything for the grip anymore. They got to use the basics. So maybe this was happening right after the whole, substance lockout thing, where they started checking everybody. Now everybody's got to use the same thing for their grip. So they got to use sweat and they got to use the rosin bag. So maybe you couldn't tell. This is all just sounding like a big conspiracy theory, but I wouldn't put it past Rob Manfred because he's so shady and disgusting of a person that he probably would do that. So, but the evidence is there. I mean, just that one game alone, like Zach Britton's a ground ball pitcher and he wasn't great this year, but he gave up a freaking towering shot to end that game. And then the next series or the next two games when they went to Chicago, the ball wasn't flying like that. It's just it was a little sketchy.
Yeah, the proof is in the videotape, really.
Yeah. Go back to the London series again. Aaron Hicks was hitting 500-foot home runs. The ball, that doesn't happen normally, and you can hear it. It sounds different.
You said, it's not the London air either.
Yeah.
Aaron Hicks couldn't walk 500 feet without getting injured now. So the fact that he's now able to hit 500-foot home runs, there's something not quite right.
And you can hear it when the bat hits the ball. It just sounds different. It sounded different during the Field of Dreams game. It sounded different during the London series. And if we have another Field of Dreams game next year, which I think we do, just listen. Just go back and watch the game from last year, and you'll hear a difference in the way the ball was sounding off the bat. And it had nothing to do with the camera quality. It was the same camera and sound quality they use for every other game. It just sounded different. It's sketchy, but I mean, again,
I attributed the difference in the sound of the crack of the bat because it wasn't like it was a real stadium. So it's like, all right, maybe because it's more open than even most stadiums are. I thought that was a factor to it, but it does, your argument does have validity to it also.
Will this expose put pressure on Manfred to lose his job? Is there any way that we can?
No. No, the owners will never do that because look at,
That's true.
The owners are the ones that, control Manfred.
You're right. And as long as he gets them dollars, and as long as he gets them plenty of dollars, then he has a job for life.
They love him. It's all it is. It's all about money. And I sound like my father when I say it because that's what he complained about back in the day. Like all they want is money. Well, now I'm becoming like dad. So thank you, Dad. You've won.
You proved the point.
Back in my day.
Yeah, right.
All about the money. That's all it is. It's unbelievable that it's come to that point. Now I'm forced to agree with my father on this. But yeah thank you, Manfred, you scumbag.
Yep. It's really
Can we title that should be the title of our episode. Thank you, Manfred, you scumbag.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm sure that would go over really well. But regardless, I don't know what's going to happen. And all I do know is we'll still be, putting out videos for everybody. We're going to be talking about a lot of different things. Try to talk with, try to bring in some different people, get some interesting discussions going on. So sit back, relax, enjoy the channel for what is, while we were able to put the content out there. We do appreciate everybody that does listen in. And if you haven't watched if you don't remember any of the shows from last off season and the fun we had while there's no games, go back, watch some of those from last off season. We had a lot of fun and we try to do something a little different for everybody. So on that note, we are going to sign off for today. Just remember, like, share, comment, and subscribe. Click the links below on our social media. Just remember, wear your pinstripes with pride and play hard.
Thanks,
man. Sucks.